put the powder in the glass. Pour an alcoholic beverage of your choice. I prefer whiskey. I also like to add a little bit of hot dog water to mine. It's just personal. Just find a nice sedentary position. Relax. And stay there. Couch body.
Hey everybody, welcome to Lunch Therapy. Today is Interview Friday, and we have a very important guest, Adam Bloom. Very excited about that. But first I want to say happy birthday to my Aunt Ruth out there in Pittsburgh. Hope you have many more. Great talking with you this morning. And also we want to send out some healing vibrations and love to the people that are struggling with the fires here in Los Angeles. It's very serious what's going on. It just keeps going on. Had a new fire up there in Castaic. So we're sending out some love to those people. Hoi, Gunnell. Gunnell is here. Today we're going all the way across the pond to talk to Adam Bloom there in the UK. It's going to be very exciting because we're going to get a different perspective on comedy. A lot of us who watch the show are comedians. And there's one now, Ginny Sykes. Happy birthday, Aunt Ruth. Yes, Ruth Neff. Happy birthday there in Pittsburgh. She's going to go out in the snow and drive her car. Hopefully she's going to be okay. All right, let's get into this thing. This is called Lunch Therapy. There's Mama J. Hi, Gunnell. Are you mad at me? It's a good question. It's a good question. First and foremost on the show, we have to thank the Patreons. Thank you everybody for contributing to the show. Please like and subscribe here if you're on YouTube. If you're really wanting to support the show, go to patreon.com/JoelMarshall. We give away items on Tuesdays, so sometimes we have to fund the show. Plus, it's not free to do all this streaming and pyrotechnics that we do on this show. So please go to patreon.com/JoelMarshall. Give like $2 a month or something like that. That'd be great. Gunnell says, how could I be mad at you, Mama J? Inconceivable. Inconceivable. All right, let's do this breathing so we can get to the interview. There's Boney in the background dancing on the screen. Looks good. This is the breathing part of the show. This is healing vibrations behind me. This is aligning all of the 10 minor chakras. This is about the throat and freeing the voice, which is something we're going to be doing on the show today as well. Freeing the funny voice. Free the funny. Howard says, Ginny and Howie are in Ventura at a winery Saturday the 25th. So this Saturday night, they're going to be whining at the winery, and it's a fundraiser for the fires. So please, Howard, put the information in the chat room so people can go there to Ventura. Wow, you're going to be in Ventura. Winery. Sounds like fun. All right, let's do this breathing in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. One more time, in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. I lied. I'm a big liar. There's one more breath in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Shake it out. And let it go. I think you're all going to like this guest today. He is something else. I'm so glad that I got him on the show, and I can't wait for you to hear him. Let's get into the introduction here. All right, this is his book. On my left here, it's available in the show notes. It's written by Adam Bloom. He's a world-renowned British comedian and writer. He's been a stand-up comedian for 30 years. He's been a regular at the Edinburgh Festival, where he won the Polygram Punter Comedy Award and the Time Out Comedy Award for Best Stand-Up. He's also appeared regularly at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival and the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal. His television appearances include popular British shows like Mock the Week, Never Mind the Buzzcocks, Russell Howard's Good News. He also wrote and starred in his own BBC Radio 4 show, The Problem with Adam Bloom, which ran for 3 seasons. Ricky Gervais said he has been one of his favorite comedians for 10 years. And the new book, Finding Your Comic Genius, is an in-depth guide to the art of stand-up comedy, and it's a valuable asset for any comedian or public speaker. This book is, I can't sing its praises highly enough. There's some of the stuff in here is just so practical, something you can use, something you can also help yourself with when it comes to writing comedy. So let's get on with this thing. This is Lunch Therapy Interview Friday with comedian Adam Bloom. Namyo Renge Kyo.
Just by show of hands, how many of you have got young kids? Right, little tip from me to you on behalf of everyone else in this room. One photo is all we need to see. One of my best friends had a baby 3 years ago. Beautiful little boy, Luke. I only have to walk in his front door. I get bombarded with photographs. The worst thing is, Luke is standing there. I can see him from most angles already. 36 brand new identical photographs. They're not identical, but they're so similar that if you made a flip book out of them, it would look like this. Got one in the wrong order.
All right. Welcome to Lunch Therapy, Adam Bloom.
Hey, thanks for having me. I want to make it clear, that clip was 21 years ago. I'm not ill.
21 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've been doing comedy for over 30 years. Is that about right?
30 years. Yeah, just turned 30 years. That clip, by the way, I had to drop that because when I became a parent, because it's about contempt for parents who show loads of photographs of their kids, then I became that parent. And it's like, I can't do that because I'm that person. It'd be so hypocritical. And, you know, it's from the perspective of a non-parent, isn't it? Who's sick of other people's photographs of their kids. But yeah, it's quite an inoffensive joke because it's just, you know, there's no cruelty in that joke.
How important is it establishing yourself when you first come on stage? If you're not like a known comedian, or the crowd, maybe it's not a crowd that's familiar with you. How important is it to establish your point of view when you first come on stage?
Well, there's a bit in my book when I talk about first impressions, and a good opening line could not just set up your persona, it could also set up your style of joke, in the sense that Emo Phillips, one of my heroes, who's otherworldly and he's an oddball, yeah. And he walked on stage on his debut in London. He went, "It's great to be indoors." right? Now,
yeah.
he hasn't just set up that he's been wandering the streets all day. He's also set up that his jokes are going to twist on the last word, or in this case, the last syllable of the last word. So setting up a style and a persona is an incredible thing to achieve in one sentence. Now, some comedians will go on a bill with a big name and they'll go, yeah, they only did well because the crowd knew them. Well, that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But your job, if you're unknown to your audience, is to make them know you like that. That you can own the room. Like I've seen people who are considered good comedians take 3 minutes to get the audience to know who they are. It's like you should be able to do that in 30 seconds. And if not, by your second line. So yeah, your job is to absolutely get across everything about you in boom, almost like an advert break, just commercial break. Boom, that's the product. I'm showing you the product in 20 seconds.
And that's because the audience will be like trying to figure it out probably. And that takes up too much brain space.
Well, I mean, there's so much happens when you walk on stage. They get your age, your ethnicity, then they hear you talk. They work out your, in England, we have a very noticeable class system. It's not the same where you are, I don't think. You can hear how much someone's dad earned when they're in their mouth. But the point is that we're already taking a lot in when someone just walks on stage. And then we've got to take in more about the personality. But of course, how you dress, your movement, persona is not just in your material, it's in your, it's arguably more so in just the look in your eye and the way you take the mic at the stand. You
talk about that. You talk about specific things in the book, like how you take out of the stand. Sometimes people will tap it, which will say something about them, like how professional they are or not professional they are.
Well, there's a guy called Gavin Webster who's from Newcastle, northeast of England, and he exaggerates his working class northerner, and he almost plays like he's not a comedian. It's this man who's just going to talk about some stuff. And he turns the mic on the side and taps it every now and again, like he's just checking it is working. Because it's like it gives the impression he doesn't know his voice is being amplified because he's not sure. And turning it on the side, it almost looks like, I don't know, like he's doing it in a technical shop fixing stuff, like a shop that would fix your toaster. So he just does that. And that gets across that he's not a comedian who's used to being on stage. It's a lovely subtlety. Dennis Leary and No Cure for Cancer dragged the mic stand behind him like it was a kid with his school bag, scraping on the stage, no respect for the object or the floor beneath it. So it gave across the persona of the No Cure for Cancer show is, I've given up, the world's a mess. I can't, it's that, what's that line there? I didn't break the world. I didn't ruin the world. It was broken when I found it. That's one of the lines of it, something like that, right? So the point is, he gets that across, dragging a mic stand across the stage before he's done his stand-up. We
just had Ron Lynch. We had the comedian here, Ron Lynch, on last week, and he was similar to that. And he gives this idea that maybe he's not a stand-up even when he's on stage, because he's like trying to figure out, like he taps the microphone and then he talks and nothing comes out of his mouth, but you can hear it working. And so it gives you this weird illusion that he has no idea what he's doing, but he totally knows what he's doing. And it's very, that's one of the things you talk about, which I love in this book, is the boom mic moments. That's something that you see it, but I never had somebody encapsulate it so specifically so that anybody can understand it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I made, I came up with 29 phrases and words for things that I didn't think had names. Well, I knew it didn't have names, and it would make it easier for us to communicate with each other. And the one that stuck the most is probably boom mic moment. So for your listeners, viewers, when you're watching a film and you're really into the film, and then a boom mic appears at the top of the screen, just a little flash of it. Yeah. And you're like, oh God, this is acting. And it takes you at the moment. You're now picturing a film crew around the person, and you feel like you're being given a bad film, because if they didn't notice in the edit, how come I'm noticing it now? But that's obviously a mistake. Yeah. But comedians are doing boom mic moments often all the time, because they'll say something like, I did this joke the other day in such and such a place, and someone said this. It's like, I was enjoying your story. If you do one-line jokes, if you just do two-line jokes, dun, 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 and you're on tour, we know you're doing those two-line jokes on tour at the next theatre. But if you're a conversational comedian who's creating the illusion you're just chatting with your new friends, why would you tell a story about your mum's funeral and then go, I did this the other day. We don't want to know. That's a big mic popping on the screen. We don't want to know you did this the other day. You don't want a partner saying, this is my ex's favorite position.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like you have basically, you've lifted the veil on the idea that you're just a funny person. Because
Yes.
I do think that oftentimes people, I mean, we're getting more sophisticated with our knowledge about comedians, even just anybody who watches comedy. But I do think you're being a magician and you're sort of acting like you're just coming up with it on the fly. That's why a lot of times me being an actor, it helped me when I started doing comedy, because I could, what we say in the theater, fresh mint the words as if you're just coming up with them. So these boom mic moments just totally pull the rug out from under that.
Yeah. I'm not trying to make them think I'm saying it for the first time. I'm not out to make them think I'm making up on the spot. I have no problem with them knowing it's thought out. I just don't want to remind them it's been said before. You know what I mean? It's like, here's my bit and it's fresh to you. And I don't, you know, I talked to a close-up magician friend and someone said, he said, sign this card. And she said, oh no, I'll ruin the whole deck. And he said, oh, I get through 3 of these a week. Now that's cheapening the moment between you and that person, because I would say, oh, it's okay, you're worth it. It's a big party. I'm very happy to do that. But it's a bit, you know, the analogy I do in the gig of, I mean, the worst boom mic moment is when the comedian tells an audience off by saying that joke normally works.
Yeah, that's the worst, so now, isn't it? Yeah.
So now you're saying you said it before, and we're about audience. The problem is us, not you.
Yeah.
And that's an ego-fueled boom mic moment. It's like nothing is going to gain from saying to an audience that normally works, because you've just revealed it's a set and we're about audience. And what we want to be is a good audience watching you doing something fresh. If you're telling a personal story, I got to stress this. Mitch Hedberg could go 2line joke, and make a reference to it because they're clearly a guy telling jokes. I'm not mad on people doing that, but joke tellers could get away with it because they're clearly telling jokes. But if you're telling a story about your life, we don't want to know you told it the day before. We don't want to be, there's nothing to be, for that one extra laugh when you say the guy in Birmingham said this and then I came back with this and we all laugh at how brilliant you were the other day, rather when you could be funny now. I'd rather you were funny now than tell me stories about you were once funny.
Exactly. Unless maybe, I guess there's a possibility your persona could be so aggressive that you put down the audience all the time. I mean, you talk about what I would call having a point of view, but you also talk about status and the status that you take on the stage. What kind of what status would you say that you take?
Mine's I want to say one more thing about what you said. Yeah, an aggressive comedian could say to the audience, that works. You have no idea how lucky you are to have me here. Blah, blah, blah. I did that joke in Vegas last week and they were in stitches. You idiots, you piece of right? Yeah. I can see that working, but it's still a boom mic moment. It's still a boom mic moment.
Yeah.
No matter how you dress it up, it's still a boom mic moment.
And you have to know that you're doing that. If you actually do it, you have to know consciously that you're doing this, and there could be ramifications that are not so great.
Yes. There are comedians who make an art form of boom mic moments, but that's conscious. I know the audience are thinking I did this yesterday. I'm deconstructing comedy. Stuart Lee is very big in England, but leaking boom mic moments. I mean, there's a subtle one. The other day, someone said to me, they're on stage and they said, they did a joke about sanitary towels. And they said, I should be getting commission for this joke by now. And that's a boom mic moment because you said, I've done this so many times. So I said, why don't you say, I should be getting commission for this?
Yes, just for this, not for
by now. The 2 words by now remind you it's been done again and again and again. But back to the thing, status. So it's a very English thing. I am definitely being traditional here. We don't like winners. So we support the underdog. Yeah. And our sitcoms are all about failed people trying to get on. And yours are predominantly about successful people, you know, Jerry Seinfeld, Friends. I mean, look, The Office, which was ours, right? That's an English show. The Office did run for 10 seasons in America about a failed office manager. I didn't see them, but the formula is the same thing. But you know, he's a bit of an idiot, right? But the our sitcoms, Only Fools and Horses, about a failed con man who's trying to better his life by ripping people off and he can't. Alan Partridge, the greatest sitcom of all time for me, is about a guy who got sacked from his TV show. We like The Underdog.
Or Extras. Extras was awesome too.
Yes, Arrested Development, which is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
They are failing. They're a rich family failing. So in actual fact, that is the exception that proves the rule. But Sanford and Son was one of ours as well. Steptoe and Son.
Really?
So whenever you make a sitcom, yes, Steptoe and Son. Whenever you make a sitcom about losers, they're English remakes. But anyway, there are people listening going, no, what about that? What about that? I'm not saying every single sitcom are successful people, but the pattern in England is our sitcom characters. Mr. Bean is our most successful comedian.
Yeah,
Mr. Bean did not do well in America proportionally to sales to population.
Oh, yeah.
That was the country Mr. Bean wasn't as popular in. But the thing is, so you can go on stage, an American comedian, and tell a story about how you outwitted someone. You can walk on stage and go, let me tell you, I was in a cafe and I said this and they said this and I said this. Yeah, you go. And it's a very American thing to support the boast of the comedian. But we don't, in England, we don't really warm to winners. So the thing is, what I do to keep it slightly traditional is I don't want to make fun of my appearance. I don't want to make fun of myself, and then creep up behind you. And before you know it, I'm standing on stage bragging about funny ideas I've got. And you going, guy, this guy's good. But I'm celebrating an idea in my head. So we're both enjoying that thing I thought of, but I'm not going, check me out, I'm amazing. You know, a lot of wise guy comedians. I mean, W.C. Fields. Can you remember W.C. Fields?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so he's got a line that, I said to a girl, what do you want to drink? She said, champagne, I guess. I said, guess again. Right? It's a great joke, right? That's W.C. Fields. If you hear anyone else doing that, that's W.C. But the point is, that punchline is, I said, guess again. He wins because he tells the girl she's not getting a glass of champagne. It ends with, I said. It's even saying, listen to me. The other day I said this to someone. That's a high status wise guy. I don't do those. So I'll say I thought. So I'll soften it because I thought. So I'm not telling you how clever I was the other day. I'm sharing a thought with you, my new friends. So I would go in low. So I'm high status, but I go in dress in low status, T-shirts, colorful, almost like a children's TV presenter. And I make fun of myself first to show you I don't take myself seriously, then I'm accepted, and I creep up, and then I become high status. And in America, I probably wouldn't have to. But it's a very English thing. If you acknowledge your own flaws at the beginning, you're accepted, because being on stage is boasting just by being on stage. Yeah. You're saying, everyone, listen to me, it's worth paying to hear. Right?
Yeah. I'm going to stand here alone on stage, and I'm going to do all the talking, and you're all going to sit there and listen to it. Yeah, that's very high status.
Sorry, I took a few weeks off recently, and I took some time because of my book. And there's a British comedian called Otis Candelloni, and I'm backstage with him. This is my first gig of the year. This was Saturday, my first show of the year. No, I did one on the 3rd of January. But anyway, I'd done 2 weeks without a show, which is unusual. Yeah. And I said, I've just taken some time off gigging because of my book. And he went, yeah, I'm a slow reader too. Isn't that a great line?
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I
love that.
What's my point? So I'm on stage on Saturday. You know, I'm used to gigging between, 3 and 5 times a week, even 6, 7 on a busy week, doubling up and tripling up. Wow. And I'm on stage and I'm standing in this small club, and it's people all around looking at me, and I'm thinking, wow, it's all me talking. Wow, this feels a bit wrong. Am I worthy of this many people's attention for 24 minutes? Because I hadn't gigged for a while, I looked at it from a different perspective. Because you do gig it every night, your 3rd gig of a night, you just walk on stage and that's what you do. But it's actually very humbling that people are prepared to listen to you talk.
It is. And that you're saying that occurred to you. You didn't say it in your bit. It just occurred to you that there's the guy, Arnold Brown. I think he was a mentor of yours.
My mentor.
Yeah. So I was watching him because you had mentioned him in the book, I think. And that was one of the things he said to the audience. He said, I'm standing up here and you're all sitting, and that makes it comedy, or makes it stand-up comedy. If you were all on the stage and I was sitting, that would be a musical.
It's something like
that. Yeah, it's great.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. One person on stage, hundreds in the audience. If it was the other way around, it'd be a musical. Isn't that a great line?
I love that.
He's my favorite. I've got several lines that I love, but he said, people often say to me, "What is Jewish people's contribution to civilization?" And I always say, "We've already given." Or the other one, he said, "All these mobile phones." I remember back in Glasgow when I was a kid, we were the first family in our street to have cordless pajamas.
That's great. I'm going to play a clip of yours.
Right, I was a little bit took the piss out of you. I'm going to make up to you, right? Give me a subject, not sport, not politics, anything else in the world, anything, go. Art. If I was Banksy, I'd stop doing graffiti the day the Queen died, just to get everyone wondering. I did art at school. I did the last year of O-levels, right? I took 10 O-levels, I got 2, art and graphics, and I copied. I didn't understand the system. I got a U for English, which I thought stood for unbelievable, or above average.
All right, there's several things there. One thing is, at the beginning, you said something to the audience member like you took the piss out of them, and now you're going to let them choose a topic. Is that something that you do with people? Because sometimes you'll just flat out say, call somebody a bitch or something like that in the audience, right? I mean, you went low status when you did that. You went low status and then you did it, and people, got a huge laugh. In this, is that a way you bring people back in if maybe you were a little too hard on them?
I think that if I'm going to go, so on a good night, I can go, if I've got a 40-minute set, I can do the whole front row, give me a subject to like whatever, 12 people, my record's probably 12. Often I'll do like 4, 5, 6. And if I haven't got a subject, I can either improvise or I've got a get out of jail free card that I can use a method to spin it round, right? So I've got a backup plan. But if I'm going to pick someone first in the audience, isn't it nicer to pick the guy who I've made fun of than somebody who I haven't spoken to?
Yes.
So I said, I made fun of you earlier. I don't like to take the piss. I made fun of you earlier. I'm going to make it up to you. But if I make fun of someone, I always fist bump them. If I make fun of how young a 21-year-old looks, it's not. There's no hatred. It's all done with love. If you're smiling and you've given off enough warmth, and the audience know who you are, you can say something crueler than someone else can say because they know it's coming from a good place. What you don't want to do is say something so cruel that the crowd go, "Whoa, you're not the person we thought you were," and that's coming out of character. And that's as good as stamping on your boom mic, leaving and watching a silent movie. Because if you're, I saw a guy lose his temper on stage. He was all very charming, gentle guy, and he lost his temper with someone talking. And it's like, then he went back to being gentle. It's like, it just
doesn't work. I know
work.
I've had that just even like at an open mic where people are all on their phones, and I felt that sort of like, anger come up, and if it seeps out in the wrong way, you're completely listen. They'll be like, screw you, I'll look at my phone all day. It's my phone. But yeah, you have to somehow, I don't even know, I guess you'd have to address it in a funny way that they were on their phones.
You should. One little pointer about that is someone on their phone is rude with regard to you knowing they're on their phone. But the people behind them and certainly the people in front of them can't see them on the phone. They can't hear them. So although there's a light can be irritating, someone being on their phone and you making a big deal of it is a bit precious because the people in front of them can't see their phone. Yeah. The people 2 rows behind can't see them. It's not making a noise. So I would just ignore. I wouldn't even acknowledge it. I just get on with it.
I think that's a good idea.
There's one comedian I saw. It's his line. So no one steal this. He said to the guy, he said, "Is that a smartphone?" He went, "Yeah." He went, "Can you Google manners?" Isn't that great?
That's a great one. I wonder also about people that bring their notes on stage. Like I've even gone to shows that I've paid for and the person's been like, "Oh, I'm working on this. This is going to be great when it hits Netflix." That's a boom mic moment, right?
It's a major boom mic, but it's also a new material night when you're paying whatever $5 to see good comedians trying stuff out. Then I'll bring notes because this is raw. This is we cannot remember 10 minutes of new stuff, and we're going to look at notes and we're going to tick them or whatever, and that's something exciting. It's a boom mic gig. That's a boom mic gig, right? If you asked 8 comedians to try and remember 10 minutes of stuff, they won't. So therefore, the notes that's a different context. A paid gig where the audience is paying full price, and someone comes over, they better be a huge name. When you say Netflix, you talk about people who are doing Netflix things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm speaking specifically of Bill Burr. I went to see Bill Burr at the Largo, and he had notes. And I mean, he was working on his materials, but I, at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, we paid money. I mean, maybe it's not full fare. Maybe you pay like a lot more to see him like in a big stadium or something like that.
Yes,
so.
you just hit nail on the head. You're getting the privilege of seeing someone who doesn't need that gig.
Yeah.
So I would say that the only two times bring out notes is if it's a new material gig, or you're so big that your audience are just grateful you're there.
Yeah.
And you just got to accept that you're lucky to see them with notes or not notes. I saw somebody who had done a little bit of TV, a gig where we were all getting paid the same fee, and they got their notes out. And I'm like, you're not well known enough to do this.
It's sort of like a status thing. I guess you have to be really high status in the comedy world to come up.
Yes, that's an offstage status. Yeah, that's not a persona status.
It's not a persona.
If you've done a little bit of TV and the majority of the audience don't know who you are, you getting out notes where everyone else has got a slick set makes you look like you're disrespecting the audience. But I think Bill Burr is at the stage where
he's definitely
get over it, Joel. Get over it, Joel.
I'm over it. I'm not judging. Okay, now here's a story that you tell. This is going to be interesting.
Well, I got mugged in Manchester. Anyone here from Manchester? Yeah? Got my phone? I went down a dark alley late at night, right? Not a good idea, right? Friday night, late at night, I went down a dark alley and a guy jumped out behind me like this. Give me all your money or I will stab you. Now, that's quite frightening, because I never saw a knife, that could have been a pen. But I'm not going to risk it. Don't want to get drawn on. I had £3 in my pocket. I gave him the £3. He looked back at me as if I just mugged him. We're empty your pockets. I got my phone, I'm a little Nokia one. When I bought it, the bloke in the shop said it was the lightest phone in the world. So when I got home, I got some sandpaper and scratched a bit off the edge, so I had the lightest phone in the world. And as I handed it over, it suddenly occurred to me that little SIM card's got all my numbers on it. I said, that SIM card means nothing to you. You know I'm going to cancel my phone as soon as you walk away. Can I have my SIM card back? So I'm asking a mugger for some compassion. But it just shows that there are different levels of mugger in the world, because he went, "Oh, sod it, go on then." He even held my can of Fanta for me.
There's more to that, but I really enjoy that. One of the things I wanted to point out is there's this part where you say, I scraped off part of the phone and now it's the lightest phone. There is this delayed laugh that occurs. There's like a little laugh and then people get it.
Yeah. I get that a lot.
Yeah, you get that a lot. Now, would you say that is a cube as opposed to a ball? Can you tell us a little bit about the cube ball thing?
The hardest chapter of the 32 chapters in my book to write was describing energy, because it's a bit like trying to describe flavor of good food in writing, right? Mm-hmm. And with feedback from other comedians, when I sent the first draft to them, boom, my moment about my book, I finally got it right. And that is that all jokes are either balls or cubes. And if you picture a Rubik's Cube on an ice rink and a crystal ball next to it, if you tapped the ball, it would roll on the ice for quite a while because it's heavy and it's round. Mm-hmm. If you tap the cube on the ice, it would only move a little bit. Now, a cerebral joke, such as I got the lightest phone in the world, so when I got home, I scratched it off the corner, so I had the lightest phone in the world. That doesn't create any strong mental images. It's not emotional, right? Yeah. It's not. There's no passion. There's no strong images of a sandpaper on the phone. Nothing strong. You've got to work it out and go, oh, yeah. Now, that's a cube. Now, if you have no energy in the room, a cube fails because the audience go, oh, I get it. Now, that little laugh turned into a big laugh. If there was no energy in the room, that little laugh would have stayed there because there was no buzz inside them to push the laugh out. So what you've got is, I worked out what a cube was. And then when I wrote a joke that was a cube, I made sure I only brought it in when there was energy in the room. When there was a ball, the energy in the room's a ball, the cube's there. You deliver the cube when there's a ball behind it, the energy in the room, and the joke works. If there's no energy in the room, cubes fail. And then the comedian comes off stage and go, that audience didn't get that joke. And I'm like, whoa. I laughed. I got it and I didn't laugh. So if I got it and didn't laugh, why didn't possibly most of them get it and not laugh? The idea that not laughing means they didn't get a joke is ridiculous. I watch a sitcom, I laugh 3 times, I get every line.
Yeah.
So what you either do is you bring the joke in at the right moment, or you write a ball within that routine before that cube, so it's self-contained energy. But you do that. Stephen Wright's one, probably the greatest joke writer who ever lived.
Yeah.
He's got a line, when I got food poisoning, I don't know when I'm going to use it. Right?
Yeah.
Now your reaction there was a pause. There was that pause.
Yeah,
there
was a pause. I had to think about it.
And now the thing is, I saw him do that on a TV show where it's a big TV recording, big names. Please welcome Stephen Wright. He does that line. If Stephen Wright was in a comedy club and the act before him had died on their ass and there's 25 people in the room, I don't think he'd open with that line because it's a cube. He instinctively will know. He may have thought of cubes and balls. This is the Rain Man in me that's worked this out as a visual thing. But he would have done something that's got stronger mental imagery. He's got a line. I remember when I was a fetus, I used to sneak out of my mother when she was asleep. I figured now's the time to start stealing since I didn't have any fingerprints. It's great, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And of course, his delivery, he's unshaven, he's looking a little bit lethargic. I can't do an American accent. I certainly wouldn't want to try and do an American accent here. But the point is that I used to sneak out of my mother when she was asleep. There's nothing to work out. He's painting a picture and it's very strong.
Yeah.
Walking outside of a sleeping mother with an umbilical cord. There's nothing to get. It's a strong image.
Yeah.
And that creates energy because it's exciting. It's a lot more exciting picturing a fetus walking out of their mother than it is a picturing somebody having a little tube with food poisoning in it to give to somebody to poison them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the food poisoning is definitely a cube. It's no strong mental image. There's no emotion. When Sam Kinison walks on stage and he's screaming at the audience, that's all balls. Ball. People with attitude or passion. If someone's saying, my wife left me and this is what I want to do to her, that's a ball because it's going, I'm filling the room with energy, passion, emotion, or someone who's edgy. Someone walks on stage and says something controversial about race or gender or trans people. That's a ball because it's creating energy. Tension is a ball. The audience going, oh my God, is he going to insult people? Is he going to cross the line? That's energy. But a cube is a short, cerebral joke that has no strong mental image or emotion.
And you would never start with that. You would never start out a show with that. It's almost like when you tell that joke, it's sort of like a joke that you really like. And we kind of get, like it's your joke and you enjoy it. And we're like in the middle of a really funny thing. So that is just another really funny moment that we share with you. But I think, as comedians, we have jokes that we really enjoy telling. And sometimes we can never get a laugh on it. And I think this is the solution to that. Totally.
I got one.
Yeah.
I got one. So I tell a story about playing a practical joke on my barber, and it's a very elaborate practical joke.
Yeah.
And at the crux of it, where I have to paint a strong image in your mind, I said, now listen carefully. You have to use your imagination for this. And if you haven't got an imagination, just pretend. Right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. I still do it.
Works for me.
I'm doing it for me. It's just one line for me.
Yeah.
And once one lady had a fit of hysterics, and it was like that was literally for one person out of 200. But I keep it in because 1 in 5 times it does work, and the other times you get pockets of people laughing. I would never suggest people don't get it. I'd suggest they get it, but they don't find it funny. It's just poetic.
Yeah.
If you haven't got an imagination, pretend.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, but it never gets a big laugh. That's never ever got a roaring laugh. But any new comedians here, if you've got a whole set full of those, and you're a comedian, and all the comics going, oh, that audience were rubbish, they didn't get you, you're amazing. You can't have a whole set of jokes that no one finds funny.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can keep having conviction in your weirdness and make audiences come to you, because you get better at being you by not compromising, by going, okay, this is what I do. It's a bit weird, but I'm doing it. And each time you go out and have a tough gig, you will get stronger at doing that, because you're going to the gym. Every time you have a bad gig, you're just going, this is what I do. But if you have a set that's always going well and there's those lines that don't work ever, you can't have a set with 5 of those in, because it's self-indulgent. You are ultimately trying to make people laugh. You don't have to compromise your art. You can still be weird. You can still do terrible stuff. But if you have a joke that doesn't ever work, you don't have 7 of those in a 20-minute set.
I like what you were talking about too, about writing out your set, because just the act of writing out the set, you'll find a bunch of toppers and things that you didn't know, a bunch of tags and funny stuff. You, like, every time you write, you come up with something else. And yeah. I think that's really great. And I loved, there's also a chapter that I did not get a chance to read as thoroughly as I want. I'm going to go back and read that one, is the one about generating new material. Because I think as comedians, that a lot of times is the most difficult part for us. Is like, we can get a really good solid, especially here in LA, you can get a solid 6-7 minutes. But you want to do longer sets, and you also want to be able to deliver when somebody says, hey, I want you to host this computer award show or whatever it is. So what are some of the techniques that you use to generate new material?
So just to go back to your first point, you mentioned my Radio 4 series, the BBC radio show. Yeah. I had to write out some existing stand-up, because the producer has to see every word you're going to say. And it was predominantly brand new material. But each show I would crowbar a little bit of existing material in. You know, if I'm doing a show about gossip and I've got a little bit of material about gossip, but it would be crazy not to do it. It would be crazy. And as I'm writing this stuff out, stuff I've said 200 times, I'm going, I can't believe I'm still doing this bit, let alone writing it out. Right. And as I'm writing it out, ideas came to me, and tags, or we call them toppers, right, as you said. What better time to think of a new joke when you're writing a joke, and that new joke is a punchline on top of a punchline to the thing you're writing out. So some people say I can't write material. I only do it when I'm daydreaming. Well, to me, writing is daydreaming, because if you stare at a laptop screen, like, I'm going to write a joke about frogs, that's really hard. Yeah. But if you're writing something out already about frogs, as you're typing, your mind will wander, because you're typing stuff you said before, so it's easier to type. And then you daydream while standing in front of a laptop. And that's a wonderful thing to be doing, because the joke's there. You haven't got to find a place for your frog joke. You're writing about frogs already. So existing material written out. And I learned this by fluke, because I just happened to be forced to write some existing material out. But somebody with 35 years experience came up to me at a show the other day. She said, Adam, I'm getting so much new material from writing out existing material. I can't believe it didn't cross my mind. And I look, it didn't cross my mind. I was forced to do it. You know, I'm just sharing a thing I stumbled on. And, you know, lot of great scientific breakthroughs were flukes, right? Viagra wasn't supposed to give you an erection. COVID-19 wasn't supposed to give me an erection. But the point is that generating new material, I think that the best way is lists. You know, if you want to write a joke, a routine about your holiday, I'm just looking at your thing here now. What's the setting?
That's an outdoor comedy club in the jungle.
Okay, so you want to do a thing that your trip to the jungle. Yeah. And you go, right. So you can make a list of all the things you saw, all the things you thought, and you could say, okay, I want to talk about how different it was to how I thought it would be. So what are people's preconceptions of jungles? I'm going to get killed. I'm going to get bitten. Then you could make a list of what you did happen. In the book, I talk about vaping. Yeah. Which I gave up. I gave up for 4 months. I just felt like having a little vape the other day, but very dangerous thing to have a little of.
Very dangerous. Anyway,
But I made a list of the difference between smoking and vaping. Yeah. And it's quite easy. You go, okay, vaping smells nicer. You don't have to light it. They don't run out as quickly as cigarettes. They're not illegal in bars. It's up to the manager's discretion, whereas smoking is illegal. So I made a list and I just wrote about one of them, and then went back and wrote a different one. The one of them where they say if you light up a cigarette at a bus stop, a bus will come, right?
Yeah.
So I did one routine about asking permission. I did one routine about bus stops and smoking. The routine about the asking permission ended up being a joke about a jukebox and a wedding day, because the analogy for asking permission, I said, why do you ask permission if it's not illegal? I said, would you play a tune on the jukebox and walk around the bar making sure no one dislikes that band, right?
Yeah,
now, I thought that was quite a basic analogy, but I like the premise of putting a jukebox on and asking permission. So I dropped the analogy. It's now no longer about vaping, and it's now, I care so much about what people think. The other day I put a song on the jukebox, panicked, and asked if everyone liked that tune. And then on my wedding day, when they asked if anyone objected to us getting married, it took 200. I took an hour to ask 200 people there, and then and then another hour to agree on the first dance, right?
Yeah.
And the callback, the dance has gone jukebox, wedding, dance. Now, this joke wasn't written for me. This was an exercise, but it was an analogy about vaping and jukeboxes. Drop the analogy because I thought it was quite simplistic. Then an observation about so the analogy became an observation itself. I'm so neurotic. I walk around the pub, and then that became asking permission. I thought on your wedding day you ask if anyone objects, and then it took an hour to go on. So I think I don't say I took an hour on both lines. I just say we had to ask everyone if they objected, and then it took another 2 hours to agree on what to play on the first dance, right? Which is a callback to the jukebox, but back to music, right? Now, if you look at that process, the joke about the bus stop is about smoking and vaping, and the joke about the vaping and the pub ended up being about wedding days. So that list created two extremely different routines. And if you make lists of things, you just go, right, the jungle. Let's say you had been to the jungle, right? So you make a list of what you saw. You make a list of how people think it was. So you say, I saw a gorilla and it was actually scared of me. And you'd have assumed the gorilla was scared of you. And you make a list of, I mean, to me, the jungle, I'm going to get a giant spider come in and poison me, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you might make a list of all the things and go, actually, I did some research and it turns out only 1 in 2,000 spiders are actually poisonous. And then talk about the odds and that in the real life, what the chance of getting hit by a car is 1 in 60,000 when you cross the road. And I'm more scared of spiders and cars and whatever. And then you're talking about bringing the real world into the story about a jungle. You've got the juxtaposition between painting their minds full of giraffes and things. Giraffes aren't in the jungle, are they? You've got a giraffe there.
No, they're in the savannah, I guess. Well, this is taking some liberty, I think. There is a giraffe right there.
There's a lot of lying going on in front of me.
What is this?
How can I believe anything you say? How do I know that moustache is real now?
I know. Well, the thing,
I think you're Tom Cruise. You're Tom Cruise under these.
That's right, in disguise. I'd like to sometimes take actual facts. And something really interesting that you say in the book too. But I like to sometimes taking actual facts helps me find the humor in it. Like I have a thing about sharks. I start out and say that the scariest movie ever made, or that scared the most people, is the movie Jaws. And then I say, it's terrible because Spielberg did a terrible disservice to sharks, because you know how many sharks kill people every year? You know how many people are killed by sharks every year? Like 6 or sometimes 9. Do you know how many sharks are killed by humans every year? And then people kind of guess. And it's 100 million. So just the fact that we humans kill 100 million people, that's just an interesting thing. And then I say, you should see their movies. And
that's great.
That gets a laugh.
That's great. Oh, that's great.
But I feel like there's a tag on there, or a topper, like you say, of like, maybe there's an act out or something of what their movie is like. And I've tried different things like analogies to Jaws, what their movie would be like.
I could say, they're I would bring a comparison to Schindler's List.
Really? Yeah, because it is just a massacre. Oh my
It can't
God.
be 100 million sharks.
It is. If you Google it, I always say, sometimes I say, because people don't believe it or whatever, I'm like, just Google it. Not during my set, during the next guy's set or something, which might be a boom mic, moment.
No. That's not a boom mic moment. That's throwing somebody under the bus in a very funny way.
Yeah.
That's not a boom mic. No, that's not a boom mic moment.
Oh, okay.
That's
Good.
not a boom mic moment. No.
Good. It's crazy. It's a crazy number.
I just can't imagine there are 100 million sharks in the world.
I know, but it's there if you Google it.
Wow.
And you know why we kill them? For shark fin soup. There's some kind of joke there too. I don't know what the analogy is. I said like, that's like killing somebody because you like their haircut or something like that, but I can't figure out what, what killing people, all these
Can
sharks.
we just cut their fins off and then just give them water wings?
Right. We should just, exactly.
A whole shark dies for the fin.
Yeah. The whole shark dies for a fin. That's another thing that you bring up in the book too, which is really important, I think, is sometimes you can say something that's so offensive like cruelty to animals and you just completely lose people. And you don't even realize, people don't even realize. I watched a guy talking about octopus and how he was in Japan and they were eating the octopus almost live. I mean, maybe it was still moving. And I remember just feeling like horrible about it when I was listening to it, but it's kind of what you said. You kind of have to take care of your audience in a way. You can be, I always say, if it's mean-spirited, the audience knows.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like Sam Kinison talks about wanting to drive his car into his ex-wife's house for a wall.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, you're hurt. You're hurt. We've all experienced pain.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is he's being vulnerable. He's going, I'm so hurt, I get thoughts to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Eating a live animal is a lot crueler than thinking about driving a car through a wall because you're vulnerable. So strangely enough, foie gras, which is a horrific way to eat an animal. I don't eat meat anyway, but the foie gras, it's illegal in some countries. I'm not even going to talk about what it is.
Yeah.
But the point is, if someone's eating foie gras, to me, they're very cruel by being part of that. Mm-hmm. So if then someone else turns around and uses an inappropriate word that's now out of fashion, if someone says sex change instead of gender reassignment, I've got a bigger problem with the person eating the tortured geese.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, we're going slightly off the point, but
no, that's interesting.
Yeah. But when some of the younger comedians, they see people being edgy and think, oh yeah, you just have to say, I had sex with a dwarf. Yeah, right. I'm too edgy. Look at me, I'm too edgy. And like, okay, well, what did the little person do to you? Because that's important. Sam Kinison's wife broke his heart, took his house, left him poor, and he's hurt and he's angry. It's justified victim. It's a justified, but when there's a justified victim, and therefore the next comedian goes on stage, I was in Japan. They might go, I was in Thailand, and prostitutes like $7. It was like, wow, I was like having sex with like 3 women a night. I was in heaven, and the audience like, yeah, we don't really approve of this, right? And they're like, but the other guy talked about driving a car into someone's house. He's like, yeah, I know, but he was hurt. You're just a dick.
That's so interesting. Sometimes people need to know that nuance. I mean, it's a really interesting conversation because a lot of times people just don't understand it. They don't understand that. And it could take them years of pissing off audiences to understand why something would piss off an audience and why something else would not. And a lot of it is from point of view. And like you said, the victim.
There's cruelty when the comedian doesn't mean it, and therefore it's said with love. And then there's cruelty where it's justified. If you have the line that there's only 2 lines in my book that I actually do that I quote myself. They're all old lines, but there's 1 or 2 I do. No, it's only 1 now actually. But I talk about when my wife and I split up, and I said I'm going through a divorce because I'm still separated. I said, she's going to get main custody of my 2 daughters. And I was so down about this, I was suicidal. And a friend of mine said, you can't commit suicide. What if your wife died soon after you? I thought, God, you're right. I wouldn't want to miss that. Right?
Yeah. I remember that one now.
That will always work, that line. Women laugh, men laugh. And I'm like, why is no one booing me? And then I realized, because although I'm saying I want to be there to see her die, first of all, she's taken my kids away from me. So it's justified anger. But also, if I say I wouldn't want to miss that, I'm missing the point. He's given me profound advice. Do not kill yourself. Your children need a parent. And I'm going, oh, you're right. So I'm the fool in that joke for not understanding the advice. So they're laughing at me. Yes, it's a joke, but in the joke, the target of the joke is my ex, but the victim is me for misunderstanding it. I've got it wrong. Listen to this version. I was suicidal. A friend of mine said, you can't commit suicide. What if your wife died soon after you? I thought, oh, I wouldn't want to miss that. That's brutal.
Yeah, you haven't set that up.
God, you're right. God, you're right has the misdirection, of course. You think it's going that way, but it's not just the misdirection. It's also the fact that I failed to understand very, very important advice. So I'm a victim of the joke for being stupid enough to get it wrong. And if the listeners are going, oh, sorry, if the listeners
I like that
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I keep
we're like a broken zip. We're like a broken zip.
Yeah, I know. No, you.
The point is that audiences can process things when they hear them quicker than we can process when we write them down. The collective brain of one audience together can go, that's okay to say, that's not okay to say. It goes through the filter so quickly, it comes out the other end. They told me that joke was okay before I knew why it was okay. The audience tells you it's okay to do, and you work out why it's okay having done it.
Love that. I wonder, it's almost like you and the audience, everyone in the audience and you are all working together, trying to make humor, comedy, And I love that idea of the collective brain of the audience. I think that that's very true. And I'm sure you experience this. I think only at your level do people really experience that to the fullest extent of, the idea of like laughter and the way it builds and the way the waves kind of occur and where one thing builds on another. I think you can only get that through the experience that you're having, which is to be performing to large audiences on a regular basis. It's amazing. The thing about comedy is like the only way you can really work on it is in front of an audience. And the difficulty is to always find that audience.
Yeah, I mean, funny people are born and comedians are made. And if comedians are made, how come most people get better as they get more experience? No one's the best they've ever been within 3 months of doing it. People's first special can be the best they've been because it's their first big break and they've gone boom. But they're still going 10 years. Every overnight success takes 10 years. You hear of somebody, you go, oh, this comedian's come out of nowhere. And you find out they've been doing it 15 years before you'd heard of them, right?
It's true. It's so true.
It's true. Yeah. So, but yes, comedians are made. And that's why you work it out. I could not have written that book with 1 year's experience. Not I was going to say not in a million years. not in 1 year.
Not in 1 year. In a million years, yes. I'm going to play this thing that's really interesting to me, and we're going to have to wrap it up pretty soon, but I want to play this thing you say about performer versus artist.
I'd like to read you 2 short extracts from the chapter Performer versus Artist. This is a 100,000-word book, and I quote 2 other comedians' words of wisdom. One of them is my mentor, comedian Arnold Brown. The difference between a performer and an artist is that a performer gives their audience what they think they want, and an artist gives them what they didn't know they wanted. This is a very useful quote to have pop into your head every few weeks, because I believe that pandering is the quickest route to mediocrity. I grew up watching Barbara Woodhouse on TV. She was a very eccentric dog trainer who'd take people's badly behaved pet dogs and within minutes train them to become well behaved. It was a joy to watch. She said one thing that really stuck with me. There are no bad dogs, only bad owners. Even though most comedians know what an unplayable room looks and feels like, if you treat audiences this way, you're not only focused on being more original, you also work harder at getting audiences on board rather than talking yourself out of gigs before you've even got on stage. I have a mantra that I say to myself whenever I'm about to perform at a tough gig, and it's emerged with the 2 quotes I've already mentioned. There are no bad audiences, so give them what they didn't know they wanted.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Give them what they didn't know they wanted.
So, by the way, this is such a well-produced podcast now.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I mean, my God,
Really
I've
appreciate
done live. I've done live TV that's been less well organized than this.
Oh, wow. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.
No, it's impeccable, actually. I only quote two people in my book. It's 100,000 words. I only quote two people. I don't want you to buy a book and find it's other people's knowledge, right? That quote from Arnold Brown is probably the most important thing a new comedian can hear. The difference between a performer and an artist is that a performer gives the audience what they think they want, and an artist gives what they didn't know they wanted. Harry Hill changed my life. He's a British comedian. He's a household name. I saw him. I was doing stand-up 3 weeks later. All the comedians before him were doing stories about sex, observations about commercials on TV, and low-hanging fruit, easy stuff. And I was laughing, God, this is good. I'm having a drink, and I'm laughing at stuff about my life and what I see on TV. And then Harry Hill walked on stage, and he had a mousetrap on his nose. He didn't mention it for 10 minutes. And it was just the weirdest stuff. And he would make a joke about his finger. He pointed and made that funny. And I'm watching him going, this is nothing like anything I've ever seen in my life. He's blown me away. And he gave me what I didn't know I wanted. How can you know what you want if you haven't seen everything?
Mm-hmm. Right. That's just such a great...
It's what you think you want, right?
Yeah.
We think we want something because it's the best of what we've seen.
Yeah. Well, how do you cultivate that? Is it just about being true to yourself? Is it just about following your own muse and seeing what you think is funny and then taking it out for a spin? I mean, how do you pursue that?
I think that you've got it bang on. And I think that not everyone's got Mitch Hedberg's comic mind or Stephen Wright's comic mind. If you do generic stuff, just be the best at generic stuff. But, I'm not saying everyone has to be strange. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is don't set out to please, set out to express.
That's really good. That's a really good advice. Wow. I'm going to have to end the interview. I think that's a good place to end it. I just want to ask you one other thing, because I'm sure my viewers are going to want to know this. What was it like working with Banksy? Is Banksy like a known person? He's like anonymous, right? I mean, not anonymous, but we don't know who he is. So how do you work with Banksy?
So this was a TV show. You found this on my Wikipedia, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So he approached me via his manager to write a film with him, a 45-minute film. I did a film, a TV show. In Wikipedia, it's called a film.
Yeah.
And I met up with his manager, and I met up with the director, and I didn't speak to him once, not on the phone. And I did additional material for a 45-minute film and didn't have a single conversation with him.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an incredible artist, and what a great opportunity to work with someone like that as well. I mean, obviously he must appreciate your work.
He does, but yeah. I just say one thing. I haven't told anyone this before. I was invited into an edit, and I thought, now I'm going to meet him in the edit.
Yeah.
Because this is the fine tuning. They want me in the edit. Why do they want the additional material writer to be in the edit? And I got there. It was the director and a 21-year-old female editor. There's no way she's 21, Mike, because he'd been famous for 10 years. There's no, it was 11 when she started out. So I was so crushed. I was like, I was all like, this is my big moment. But no, he wasn't even in the edit with me.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you being here. This has been great.
It's been a joy.
In different time zones, super fun. I think you might be the first British guest we've had, or not the first British guest, but the first person from the UK to zoom in. We've had someone from India. We've had people from all over the place, but this is really a treat. So thanks for spending time with us. Definitely people should go out and get the book. There's a link in the show notes for you to get the book. It's quite amazing. Here it is. Finding your comic genius.
My face.
I covered his face.
Yeah, this has been flawless.
Oh, thank you.
Blew it in the last 2
I know.
minutes.
Can you believe it? What can you do? What can you do? It's my assistant's fault. I have an assistant. His name is Boney. He's a plastic skeleton, and sometimes he gets it wrong. What can we do? All right,
you so much, Joe.
finding your comic genius. Thank you. Yes, you're welcome, and you're welcome back to the show anytime you want. So thanks so much.
Okay.
This has been Lunch Therapy with Adam Bloom, and now the dance break. I didn't tell you at the end of the show we play a song from YouTube. It's a cover song.
John, he's long gone to Indiana, ain't never coming.
A good way to end the show while we say thank you everybody for being here today. Really appreciate it. Check out Adam's book. This is Tale of Two, doing a Tom Waits song. I'll listen to a little bit of this, and then we'll call it a show.
Fallen James in the Tahoe mud, stick around to tell us all a tale. Well, he fell in love with a Gum Street girl. Now he's dancing in the Birmingham jail. Dancing in the Birmingham jail.
Go to their YouTube channel, Tale of Two. They do other cover songs. I just happen to love Tom Waits.
You took $100 off the slaughterhouse, Joe. Bought a brand new Michigan 20 gauge. He got all liquored up on that roadhouse coal.
All right, we'll see you all next week. Next show is Tuesday. Have a great weekend.